We're going to get set up for our next panel discussion. It's with the chairman and CEO, two separate people, of Coc Coc, JP Schmetz. He's come all the way from Germany, and then his colleague, the CEO, Anh Nguyen. He's the CEO of Coc Coc. We're going to welcome them onto the stage. Please come up, guys. Yeah. Welcome. This is a long time coming. Guys, you can actually download the episode that I did with these two guys 3 to 6 months ago, I think. And today's kind of a part 2 of that discussion, because a lot of the questions I had we couldn't cover on that podcast. And a lot of things have happened since then, right? Guys?
Yeah, as usual.
Too many things to go over, but we'll try to knock out as many of them as possible. Let's just start with an introduction of what you guys do at Coc Coc. And how many of you guys in the room don't know what Coc Coc is? Maybe just a raise of hands. Okay, most of you do. A handful. Holly works at Heineken, doesn't know Coc Coc. Come on, guys. Now she knows.
Heineken is actually running campaigns on Coc Coc. So.
Okay, that's good. So Holly, now you know.
So I can do the pitch.
Please.
So we're the Vietnamese search engine and browser, one of the few in the world. So yeah, that's the pitch. And then, so Coc Coc was created in 2010. Took us 3 years to build the local search engine and browser. So 2013, we launched and became very quickly extremely successful. Among Vietnamese users. So next year we're going to celebrate 10 years of launching the product.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can talk a bit more about what's coming.
Yeah, 10 years in Vietnam, 10 years in existence. JP, I want to get your perspective. Vu An's the CEO, you're the chairman, you've been involved with the business not quite 10, maybe 5+ years. For those of you that don't know, JP from Germany, he represents Berda. Berda is one of the biggest companies, mostly media company, focused company in Germany. And you guys invested in Coc Coc a while back. Why did you make that investment?
Well, because, long story, right? But the search engine is really the business of the internet. It's also one of the few applications that people do not criticize about digital, right? You can criticize social media, you can criticize a lot of things, but search engine was truly a revolution in how people access information. And at Berda, we were always trying to get into that field because it is the biggest field on the internet. So we're involved in many browsers all over the world. And in 2014, we discovered Coc Coc in Vietnam and invested heavily. I even ran the company as CEO for quite a few years. Yeah, I mean, that's search engine is very, very important for everyone in the world.
How do you build a search engine? And why did you recognize that Coc Coc was such a special case?
Well, first, it's truly rocket science. In fact, the founder and CEO of Yandex in Russia used to say there are more countries that can make nuclear weapons than there are countries who can make search engines. And you have to imagine it the way it is, right? You have to understand every single page on the internet. You have to understand every single user what they want, and then you have to bring the two together and have people satisfied. And we do this tens of millions of times every day. Right? And if they don't like it, they can always go to our competition, Google. And most people stick with us when they are with us. We also build browsers, which is another complex piece of technology, and advertising systems where we have 16,000 clients trying to meet tens of millions of users many, many million times a day, and we try to bring these two together.
Vu An, next question for you. As CEO, you get the question a lot. You guys are competing. It's a duopoly. There's just two essentially competitors in this search market. Google owns 85%. You guys own the minority here, although you started first in Vietnam. Tell us about how you're going to be able to keep up with that pace. What innovations can we expect from Coc Coc to maintain and take more market share?
So I think for us, so of course, we're much smaller than Google, right? And so we don't have the same resources than Google. So we need to find ways to compete differently. I think the first thing that is very important for us is we're only in Vietnam, we're only focusing on Vietnam, and we are very close to users, right? So we can understand, and we have a lot of users, so we can understand their needs and detect needs very quickly. So that's how we innovate, basically. So I can give you an example. So we all went through COVID, and it was very special time. During COVID, we actually had much more users because people were just at home and working and studying at home, right? But I think in the very early, we saw a lot of queries in our search engine about COVID, so we did COVID tracker, right? And I think we were one of the first to do COVID tracker because what we saw that people wanted to have like official information about COVID, so about numbers, about what are the vaccines, and then general information about COVID. So we did that. During COVID, we also saw a lot of students at home looking for content about their studies. So we did a vertical about education, Coc Coc education. So that's something that so basically, one thing we can pick up needs very quickly and answer very fast because we're just focusing on Vietnam. We're small, and that's something we can do. Number two, as I said, we need to try to find ways to compete a bit differently. And then another area where we try to compete with what we have is, so we do more partnerships. Right? So for example, we're partnering with a German company actually doing ad blocking, one of the top in the world. And they do ad blocking very well for YouTube, for general internet. And then on top of that, we're going to build ad blocking specific to Vietnamese websites, right? And so the result is that we're quite confident that we have one of the best ad blocking, if not the best ad blocking for Vietnamese users, because we just take the best from international and then we add our layer. And then more recently, we also have the same approach. So we're going to launch a crypto wallet. We're launching beta today, actually. So we build a crypto wallet, or we're building a crypto wallet, and we take the same approach. So we're talking to Brave, which is one of the top browser in the world in the crypto space, and they have open source. JP actually on the board of Brave, so it helps a lot, of course. But yeah, so we take the open source, and then we build something that is made for local users. So that's how we can compete.
So you mentioned that you guys launched a crypto wallet today.
Yeah, it's beta, closed beta, so...
It's a closed beta?
Yes. But
when's it going to be open?
So first, anyone who wants to try the beta version of a wallet, welcome. It's already in the beta version, you just need to activate it, right? Why it's still closed beta? Because we want to go through some security audits to make sure that it's robust.
So you guys have something like 10 to 50 million downloads of the browser. Is that right, historically?
I mean, every day we have 50,000 downloads, so it's like 1.5 big stadiums of people just joining our browser. Yeah.
Okay. And hypothetically, in a year's time, all of them are going to be using the crypto wallet.
Yeah,
hopefully.
so first you have to understand what crypto is, right? We're not into trading crypto to become billionaire, and I think that since a couple of weeks ago, this is going to be not a popular thing in the next few years, but it is very important for the open internet that you are able to have some identities in your browser and to have ownership of certain assets that are connected to these identities. And this is going to be many use cases. Very few will have to do about becoming a billionaire by day trading stuff, right? And we have to make sure that we are the first one in Vietnam where you have these technologies built in.
Okay. What does the future hold for you guys, aside from this crypto wallet? Where do you guys see Coc Coc being in a market where the competition, it's a duopoly, it's just two options.
I'll take a bit the competition part. I think,
Sure.
you know, competition's at different angle. Wang just covered one where you just focus more on your customers. So it's not like a tennis game where there's one winner, one loser. You just basically focus on the users. But we operate in a very strange pace, right? Where our main competitor owns the operating systems, pays Apple 16 billion a year, which is 1/4 of Apple's market cap is depending on that search deal, to make sure that we have zero ability to be pre-installed on devices, right? So in Europe and in the US, there's some discussions about changing the laws about what these platforms can and cannot do when they fight against competitors. And we believe that it's going to leak into Vietnam at one point, that we will be a bit more on a level playing field when it comes to gaining access to the users. Because basically you buy a phone off the street, you will have Google search in there. If you want to use Coc Coc search, you have to explicitly go to the Google App Store, download our browser. By the way, during COVID, they blocked the downloads for some reason. Right?
Who blocked the downloads?
Google.
Oh, okay.
It happens all the time, so they really fight hard. And then, you know, the user has to do 3-4 steps to come to us, whereas they're only 1 step to Google, right? And so that has to change, and that will most likely change. And the rest is, as Wang said, being closer to the user is where we always won. So many years ago, the internet in Vietnam, when we invested, was much more unstable than today. So Facebook was not available on some days. You couldn't stream a video without being interrupted. Right? Your podcast would have been a much more difficult thing to watch 8 years ago. And we were allowing users to download, stream content so they could view it when it was fully there. We were making sure that Facebook was always available. Today, Medium is, for example, medium.com is not available in Vietnam, but it's available in Coc Coc. And there's many sites like this. So because we understand the logic of being a Vietnamese, so and we fix it.
Vuan, JP mentioned you guys get 50,000 new downloads. That's a stadium equivalence of new users every day. How do you keep them with Coc Coc?
No, I think it's all about the product. But actually, the challenge for us, because we have so right now we have a user base that is quite loyal, right? Very loyal. And to be honest, some of those downloads, it's people coming back, right? So they buy a new computer, set up a new phone, so they are coming back. And so we see that they're very loyal. So the challenge for us is actually to scale those 50,000 downloads, who are mostly organic, actually. And we've never done like marketing at scale. So that's something that we need to do. So the brand Coc Coc among Vietnamese is very well known, but I think we need to try to make it very distinctive so it becomes the top of mind for browser and search engine. It's not the case yet, to be honest. And the last piece that JP mentioned is distribution. We haven't done any deal on distribution yet for smartphone. One of the reasons is, of course, Google has kind of monopolized distribution channels through the Android license, through their deal with Apple. But we still need to try to get there, right? And we don't have to wait for regulation to be there. We need to fight. So we're going to go to smartphone manufacturers and try to get those deals. It's not going to be the default. It's not going to be the best, the first screen, because you cannot actually. But we're going to try. So we're going to get some users through those channels. We're going to go to retailers. We're going to partner with any company we think that makes sense to help us with the distribution, and we're going to invest. Because, like JP said, the business model of search engine, I mean, if you look at Google numbers, it's really big, right? Most of the revenue, advertising revenue of Google is coming from the search engine. So the business model of search engine is very straightforward. We have it already. So we know how to convert users into revenue. Now we need to crack, how to convert money into users at scale.
You know, we are nerds, right? We are computer guys, and we never done marketing. We have no idea how to do it. It's a miracle that we have managed to get so many users, but we've never really done that, right? And so I think it's going to be something we try. On the retention question, what you have to imagine is we have 5 million daily active users, so it's 125 stadiums, right? And each of them will load on average 100 pages on our desktop and 30 pages on our mobile. That means they spend hours with them, with us, every day, right? It's a lot of things. And every one of these page loads, we have to make sure that we are a little bit better than Google. We can never be worse. We can never have the...
Are you guys better than Google at load times?
At load times, yes. And we have to, because you can never have the experience that they load something in a non-default browser like ours, and then they try it in Google and it goes better. You can never have that because they will leave, right? And so we have to do this 100 times a day for each of our millions of users to make sure that there's a little bit less ads, that the speed is a little bit faster, that you can download the video instead of stream it if you still have you know, a data plan that you don't want to use on the way, or your connection isn't stable, or you want to read an article which is not available in Google.
Okay. For you guys know a lot about tech. You guys know a lot about search. You know a lot of the trends as well. Question for you guys, who would you like to see on the show so you get more insights about how to approach the next step for Coc Coc?
I mean, one would be that we must be at the front. I don't know how much the audience knows about this, but in artificial intelligence at the moment, basically we have been able to teach computer how to speak very, very, very well. Especially in English. And we are trying to do the same at that same level in Vietnamese. So anyone who works in artificial intelligence in Vietnam, we absolutely want to know them because, yeah, this is a big trend and we will be on that, we have to be at the forefront of the large language models in Vietnamese, for sure. So anything that has to do with artificial intelligence,
okay,
definitely.
AI experts out there, you know who to talk to. Vuan, same question to you.
So I think, like JP said, we more like engineering type. And so lately, I've read all the marketing books or branding books that I could find. And each time so we work with a lot of global agencies because we have a lot of advertisers as our clients. So each time I met someone from global agency, I asked that person to recommend a book. So I read a lot of books recently. I would really love to hear about someone who has the experience of building a great brand in Vietnam. It's more for like this period of time where we try to find how to take the Coc Coc brand to the next level.
Okay.
And maybe with one caveat is that everyone knows us, so, right? So we don't have to build a brand to ask people, hey, do you know we exist? Everyone knows we exist, but to jump that hurdle that they have to jump because we can never be the default.
Right.
Like what sort of ideas do you need in your mind?
How do you be top of mind for certain features?
Not only top of mind, but take that hurdle. Because it's not typical branding where you go in the supermarket and you see 10 yogurts and then you have one brand and then you pick it up, right? We'd never have that choice screen, which is, by the way, what the legal requirement will be in Europe and the US probably at one point.
Okay.
The choice, right? Like where you start a new phone and they will say, do you want Google or you want Coc Coc? Right? We cannot have that choice. That's where branding works very well.
Okay.
But we need to have something more active. But everyone knows us, so nerd marketers that we are still work pretty well.
I think a lot of the brands out there and executives too probably face the same challenge. Your brands have been in existence for a long time, and we're actually going to hear from a panel later today about legacy brands. You guys aren't legacy necessarily, but the brands that have been around for decades and decades, how do they maintain innovation, staying relevant? I think your guys' challenge is quite the interesting case study. Let's see how that unfolds in Vietnam, soon to come. So.
Yeah. And I think one of the big challenge, maybe it's not clear to the audience, but the first part of the web, so let's say 95 to 2010, was a very open web where everyone should and could have a web page. Navigation was done through search engines. It's a bit sad that there was only one. It would be nicer if there were more. But in the last 10 years, we had a sort of a closure of the internet where a lot of it was happening in apps, right? So people would create their restaurant website in Facebook or their business in Zalo, I would say, yeah. I think we're going to see a reversal of that back to the openness because the experience has been that people go into this platform, but they get sort of screwed by the platform long term, and they don't really own their own stuff in there, right? And so the browser will again become the super app, and that's why we have to do crypto stuff to get identity, which the closed platform have, and have ownership and stuff like that more regulated in a decentralized way than it is in Facebook.
I would love to have a conversation with a Coc Coc user that has stayed the course for the last 10 years and
we
has
can find
not,
you many, yeah.
That's a whole podcast series in itself. I want to know why those users are so loyal the way they are. So
I hope Henry uses it.
Henry's, yeah, let's see. That's a little task for you guys. If you guys do have a few users, I'd love to understand why they're so.
We've met a few here. 2 at least came to us and said they've been using Coc Coc for a long time.
Oh, excellent. We're wrapping up towards the end of our fireside chat here, guys. But I'd love to hear any final comments about the future of Coc Coc, where you're headed, who you'd want to meet and talk to. Everyone, you live in Hanoi. Your team's here, but you're in Hanoi. JP, you come to Vietnam all the time, but you're from overseas. What are some people and things that you'd like to take away from this?
I think, so for people in the room, just try Coc Coc. Right? So try the product. Of course, it's more tailored to the Vietnamese user. So if you're not Vietnamese user, maybe it will not resonate as well with you. But I'm French Vietnamese actually. But I still find some of the feature of the product that are great. Even if I don't write Vietnamese, I don't read Vietnamese, or I use the translation in Coc Coc to read Vietnamese. So just try the product, and if you have feedback, we have a team, user support team, that is in Vietnam, that's answer to any questions, any support that you need. Yeah, and I think, so for me, I joined Coc Coc a bit by chance actually. So a common friend just say, hey, talk to JP. And I started as a consultant, actually, first 6 months, right? And the more I learned about Coc Coc, the more I was amazed about what has been achieved and the potential. Because you say it's a duopoly, but let's be honest, Google is huge still, and we are small, right? So, but yeah, so try the product, give us feedback. I think it's very important for Vietnam or Vietnamese users to have choice. For some reason, I think that the fact that, so when we launched, Google wasn't paying too much attention to Vietnam, or not at all. And I think, because of Coc Coc, they had to invest more to improve their product for Vietnamese users. So somehow it's like what Pierre said about bamboo, right? So it's good to have competition. It's good to have choice. And yeah.
And if you have something to sell, definitely try our ad system, knowing that you can. I mean, one of the frustrating things to us is that we have products that are totally different than Google, if you want to have them, but everyone wants to buy basically the YouTube ad before YouTube and put it on our homepage, which is kind of like forcing a square into a hole. So just, we can be very creative and try to reach your goal if your target user is more or less similar to the users that we have. We skew a bit young, but just a little bit younger than average versus Google a bit older than average. And we reach tons of them every day.
Okay.
So if you want to try it out, our booth is out there.
Yep, some big takeaways there, guys. Thank you, Vuan, JP, for joining us today, and good luck to Coc Coc. Download the app, guys. Thank you.